to my channel. My name's Jade. I'm 23 from Birmingham. This is my first video, so I'm just gonna have that little introduction so you know who I am and where I'm from, etc. So I want to put a little trigger warning in this video because I'm going to be talking about mental health and in specific borderline personality disorder. So I was diagnosed with BPD about 2 years ago now. BPD is also known as emotionally unstable disorder, and it's categorized by 9 specific symptoms, and you have to have at least 5 of those symptoms to be diagnosed. My diagnosis was I was referred by my GP to a psychiatrist, and I was open and honest about my mood swings and all the symptoms I was experiencing, and they basically assessed me there and then and said I was most likely diagnosed with BPD, but I didn't have the formal diagnosis until my next appointment when I spoke to an actual personality disorder specialist who confirmed that I do have borderline personality disorder. So, the 9 main symptoms. I'm going to go through each symptom and then I'm going to discuss my personal experience with it and how it each affects me. If you are watching this and you have borderline personality disorder and you disagree with anything I say, or you don't feel that it's accurate information, just know that it is my own personal experience. So everything I'm going to talk about, if you don't experience that, it doesn't mean you don't have BPD, it doesn't mean I don't have BPD, it just means that we all experience things differently, and you know, each symptom might present itself differently for each unique person. So borderline personality disorder is a cluster B personality disorder. I believe it's in there with antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and can't remember what the last one's called, histrionic, something like that, personality disorder. So I'm going to put a trigger warning here. I will be talking about mental health, which will probably include talk of self-harm, suicidal thoughts, impulsive behaviour, risky behaviour, etc. So if you are particularly sensitive to that kind of talk and discussion, then please feel free to click off this video. It's all good, no hard feelings. So I'm going to talk about each symptom individually, and then I'm going to say how each symptom has affected me personally, my experience, etc. So if you see me looking down on my phone, it's just simply because I just want to read each symptom and get it right. So the first symptom we have here is extreme reactions to feeling abandoned. Now this is something that I experience all the time. Imaginary abandonment just as much as real abandonment. For me, if I have an argument, especially with my boyfriend, who I've been with for 4 years, if we have an argument and he decides he wants to go home, or you know, we need a little bit of space just so we can both calm down, that triggers off my fear of abandonment like that, and I will, you know, overreact. I will do anything in my power to make that abandonment stop and to make him stay, and it can get quite desperate at times, and you feel so desperate for that person to stay, and it's such a terrifying feeling that they're going to leave. Now this fear of abandonment can come from different sources. It could be from childhood trauma, childhood abandonment, which kind of link. So this fear of abandonment can be both real or imagined. It could be as simple as their tone of voice changing, body language changing, and if you perceive that as something that means they are annoyed with you or that you've done something wrong, that will then trigger off the fear of abandonment, and you know, you think, oh my god, they're going to leave, I need to do something to make them stop, which can then lead on to the impulsive behaviours and the self-destructive behaviours, etc. So next symptom we're going to talk about is unstable relationships with others. This is categorised by being overly clingy, being overly attached to somebody. You know, you may text them 20 times. If they're not replying, you may phone them. If you don't have anxiety with phone calls, that is. It's that constant need for validation and constant need for that reassurance that that person does care about you, that they do love you, and that they're not just going to leave simply because you've had a disagreement or a difference of opinion, anything like that. So we are hyper aware, hypersensitive of other people's moods, how they feel about us, and anything they say, you know, it can just trigger a reaction like that. And you know, some people may feel like they're walking on eggshells around somebody with BPD, which I've heard that said to me a few times, and it hurts. It really hurts to hear that, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people watching this who have BPD who feel the same. If they've been told that, you feel like, oh, stabbed to the heart. Like, you know, you feel like you've done something wrong and that you are a bad person, you're manipulative, you're toxic, you're unhealthy, which of course some behaviours with BPD can be unhealthy, can be manipulative, can be toxic, but we certainly don't mean to be, and it is not intentional by any means. If ever we are manipulative or, you know, come across as toxic, it's simply because our emotions have been triggered and we can't really think straight in that state of mind. So hard to rationalise your thoughts when you are in that headspace, and if you're having an episode with BPD and you feel like someone's going to leave, it's really difficult to rationalise that and to stop that thought process. The next symptom, confused feelings about who you are. So this is a lack of self-identity, lack of self-awareness. I have always struggled with this. It comes and goes in terms of intensity, but it's always there. Some days I feel like a literal shell of a human being, like I have no personality, I have no likes, I don't know what I like, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I find funny. You know, someone could say a joke and I'm like, do I find that funny or not? I might look at someone else, they're laughing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's so funny. That's a scenario that happens quite often. It's also grasping onto things that give you any kind of sense of identity. So that could be a TV show, a movie, franchise, a game. For me, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, The Walking Dead, trying to think, what's the other ones? Rick and Morty, anything like that, or Disney, Marvel. Absolute lifesaving. Those things for me give me a sense of identity, and they give me a sense of security, basically. Kind of feels like you're a part of something. So someone with BPD may attach to things like that to give themselves a sense of identity, and they may mirror people around them. So their personality may change depending on who they're with and what the situation is and what the dynamic is between them and the other person. This doesn't mean that we are completely soulless and like we have nothing about us whatsoever. It just means that we find it a little bit more difficult to get a grasp on who we are. And of course this stems from so many different things and it can be unique to everyone. Next symptom we're going to talk about is being impulsive in ways that can be damaging. So it says here, for example, spending, sex, substance abuse, reckless driving and binge eating. I've pretty much done all of those except for the reckless driving. Yeah, because I don't drive. Everything else on that list I've pretty much covered in my life, plus other things. So being impulsive, you know, that's anything from the things I listed there to gambling, to binge drinking, to spending a lot of money, to even just destroying relationships with people. You might start an argument for absolutely no reason, which could be classed as almost like self-destructive behaviour, because you're doing that and you're kind of purposefully causing this problem, this drama, this argument that's going to weigh on your mind for hours, but you do it because you just have that impulsive urge and that rage inside you that you just kind of flip out. So yeah, being impulsive is quite a difficult one to cope with, and I think it's a very common one with BPD. And of course this can also include self-harm and suicidal behaviour. So you may self-harm simply because you feel really low and you just need that release. I know that I've done it because of those reasons, but I've also done it impulsively when I've been having an episode or my emotions are up and down, left, right, centre, and I've got no other way of letting it out, no other way of feeling kind of calm. I don't know how to calm myself down, so that can lead to self-harm and other impulsive behaviours. The next symptom is regular self-harming, suicidal threats or behaviours. So for me, I've been self-harming in different ways since I was probably about 7, 8. Of course, the form of self-harm can vary from person to person, but most people with BPD, if not all people with BPD, will experience some kind of self-destructive behaviour at some point. So you may harm yourself, you may have these suicidal thoughts. It's actually known that 1 in 10 people with BPD will complete suicide in their life, and I believe it was 7 in 10 people with BPD will attempt suicide. So the rates are very high, and it's scary and it's sad and it's terrifying that it's still not taken seriously, and that, you know, there's such a lack of education and awareness on BPD when the suicide rates are so high and the self-harm risk is so high. You would think that there would be, you know, more concentration on that and more being done in terms of research, in terms of offering treatment, in terms of getting people the diagnosis they need to then open the doors for different types of treatment. Medication, of course, as well, should always be an option if that's something that you are willing to do. The next symptom I'm going to talk about is long-lasting feelings of emptiness or being abandoned. Now, this is something that I really struggle with. I always feel empty. Always. There is always that hole inside that just can't be filled. Even if I'm having a day where my mood swings are particularly bad and I may be going from euphoric to really depressed to really overwhelmed to really anxious to really stressed to angry and every other emotion in the rainbow, that might be the case and I still feel empty. So it's like you can experience all these emotions but there's still that emptiness inside, and that emptiness, I believe, comes from usually childhood trauma, or it could be something completely different. For me, I don't know the root cause of it. I don't know what I can do to stop that feeling. I have tried to fill that hole many times, and I think that this symptom plus the impulsive behaviour, they go very, very well together. They go hand in hand, because if you are feeling and if you are hyper aware of that emptiness, you just want to do anything and everything you can to try and satisfy what that feeling is, and it can come across as a real kind of like homesick feeling for a place, a person you don't even know, and you have no idea why you feel that way and how to fix it. So that's quite a difficult one to cope with 100%. Next symptom we're going to talk about is difficulty controlling your anger. So I definitely have a problem with this. Like, my temper is bad. As I've gotten a little bit older, I'm definitely better at controlling it, and I think I can kind of recognise when my temper is starting to kind of build, and then I can say, right, I need to take a step out and calm down, do some grounding techniques, whatever. But difficulty controlling your anger, that's, you know, it can be triggered by absolutely anything. It could be something as small as you want to get somewhere and somebody's in your way, and just that little thing is so irritating to you, and you feel so agitated and so on edge, and so you just explode, and there's this, it's like a volcano going, and that's it. I call it the rage monster. It's like my BPD rage monster. Once that gets started, it's very difficult to stop, and it's very difficult to calm down. And there's often times where when you feel like that, you may do or say things that you wouldn't normally do or say, and once you have calmed down and come out of that episode, the guilt that hits you after is like nothing else. It's like a ton of bricks smacking you in the face over and over and kicking you in the arse as well. It's just not a good feeling. But that's life. So next symptom, intense and highly changeable moods. So you don't say. I've kind of already touched on this, but I'll just say a little bit more. So for me, my mood can change literally 10 minutes to 10 minutes, or it could be an hour, it could be 6 hours, it could be a day. Typically no longer than a day though for me, where my mood will kind of be constant. It's very rare. So I can go from feeling absolutely on top of the world, and I mean like euphoric, like, oh my god, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel, I'm gonna dye my hair, rearrange my room, I'm gonna, God, so many things, and then you crash and it's depression, and then you feel so low, and all you want to do is die, if I'm being completely honest. From that, it can then go to you feel really overwhelmed, and you feel so stressed, but everything is stressing you out, and that can then lead to sensory overload, which people with BPD do suffer with quite a lot. And it's something I've learned from having my Twitter page. I've had a lot of people agree with me when I've talked about sensory overload and how it's quite prominent with BPD. But these moods are honestly debilitating, and anyone who experiences them will know that. And you know, your moods are so intense and so quick to change. And the last symptom I'm going to talk about is paranoid thoughts when you're stressed. For me, I'm stressed all the time. So me, my paranoia is pretty bad, and I know that a lot of other people suffer quite badly with paranoia too. This can cause so many different thoughts going on in my head. So I can go from thinking I am being watched by somebody when there's nobody there, paranoid that your friends and family don't really like you, paranoid that your boss wants to fire you at work, paranoid that everyone's talking about you behind your back, paranoid that, you know, you don't actually have BPD. You might think, oh, it's like imposter syndrome. You feel like, no, I'm not as ill as I think I am, or I'm not as ill as they say I am. These paranoid thoughts are just all-consuming, and it can relate to any kind of situation in life. You know, and like I said, they're very debilitating. It can control your whole mood, your whole day, and leave you feeling very on edge, very agitated again. You may feel like, you know, people are talking about you, people are watching you. My paranoia has led me to believe that there was somebody in my garden one day. This was a couple months back. Somebody was in my garden watching me. There was no one there, obviously, but to me, I was so paranoid, and I was so sure that there was somebody watching me. And of course, this this is another symptom crossover. So this symptom can be a part of other mental illnesses. In fact, I think most of these symptoms overlap in some way with other disorders and illnesses. So if you think that you relate to any one of these symptoms, or maybe you relate to all of the symptoms like I unfortunately do, then you may have borderline personality disorder, or you may have something completely different. If you are worried or concerned that you may have BPD, please try and see a mental health professional. Try and get an assessment, see if you can go down the route of diagnosis and then follow on from that with treatment. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people don't have that option. I know a lot of people can't go and see a doctor, or maybe they have to pay. I'm lucky that I live in the UK with the NHS. Save the NHS. I'm absolutely, the NHS is just amazing. So I'm very lucky to live in the UK and be able to go and see my GP, get a referral for a psychiatrist free of charge. But the only bad side to that is that the waiting lists are ridiculously long. But if you do think you have BPD, or if you think you know someone who may have BPD, please try and get them to talk to a professional. And of course, do some research, read as much as you possibly can on BPD. However, I'm going to give a little warning here that if you do decide to read up on BPD, you may find misinformation. You may find dangerous information that shouldn't be being spread around, stigmatised information. A little warning that if you do read something on BPD and you find that it makes you feel a bit uncomfortable, or you feel like that's completely wrong, don't take it all at face value. Don't take it all at face value, because there is a lot of misinformation out there, which is why I'm here and why I'm trying to talk about my own experience with it. But of course, I'm not a professional. So if you have any suggestions for any future videos, please leave a comment down below. Tell me what it is that you want to see from me. BPD is something that I am extremely passionate about, so I will be making a lot of videos on BPD. But I also have a list of diagnoses that I will also be touching on in future. So, or if you follow me on Twitter, please drop me a DM, or in my mentions just mention what you'd like to see in future. Please leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you can get notified when I post videos in future. Hopefully this is going to be a weekly thing now. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you. Life was dull until you came.